So welcome back to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. Today, we have Donna Gonzalez with Artisan Face and Body joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm excited to kind of dive into it. We were just talking a little bit about your business and kind of what you do. But I'm looking forward to learning more, like how you got your start in this field and your just kind of journey over the years into what you are today, and like your approach and that sort of stuff to your business. So let's start at the beginning and before you started your career. Is this something that you've always wanted to do, or how did you get your start into this profession?
I'll be honest with you. I've been thinking about this because, at first I thought that it was an event that took place in my life when I turned 40 and I conceived. I thought that I was done, but no, I conceived. It was a surprise and I became really ill. I was very close to death, and I had my baby at 25 weeks and 5 days, which is really, 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 really young.
Yeah.
And, considering that a normal pregnancy will go anywhere between 39 and 42 weeks. So I was at 25. So things were pretty sketchy. But, we both did really well. We succumbed to what, we were challenged with, and we succumbed. And I stayed home with my youngest daughter, helping to, work with therapy and rehabilitations of certain things, which she overcame everything. But that was 4.5 years of being home, everyday therapies and feeding therapy, different doctors. I mean, I was all day long. That's all I was doing. And I had also had the help of my mother while my husband was working and the other 2 children were in school. So I kind of retired myself from the operating room as a nurse anesthetist and pain management. And I just did. I was, for the first time in my life, just literally stay at home, which was very different for me because I had never been stay at home, and I can't say that I didn't enjoy it because it was something so different, so new, so nurturing, so fulfilling.
Sure.
But at the same time, there was still a part of me that was yearning for something. And so I thought that was my pivotal moment of when I decided to switch careers within the nursing practice, because I had a dual licensure with, anesthesiology as well as being an advanced practice nurse, and working trauma before and, more of the acute medicine and all. But as I think more and more about it, when I allow myself to relax and go into the archives, I've been involved with the aesthetics, with wellness, of course, always all my life, even going through school. My first, degree was with sports medicine. I got a degree, a scholarship for sports medicine, and went to college and started that way. And did my little winding road, to nursing. But, with all that being said, it really goes back further because when I was going to nursing school, I worked for a company for a CRNA, a nurse anesthetist who owned her own company. And I was like, wow. And she started out as a nurse, and she's now a nurse anesthetist, and she has her own company. I'm like, that's great. That just gave me like, wow, I could do so much more with nursing than I thought.
Than just a job, right?
Because at first I had gone into it because I knew that it was a job that was serving, because I've always been more of the serving kind of person. I could work anywhere in the world, whether I went into the military or not, or it didn't matter. And these were all things that I was thinking about at a younger age. And a cousin of mine whom I tutored with physics and biochem and bio, all the bio classes and the chems and the organic and organics, even calculus. He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, go into medicine. He goes, this comes so easy for you. And he had just gotten out of the Marines. And so I was like, all right, I'm like, you really think? He's like, oh my gosh, this is so you. Definitely, So I put in applications for med school, put them in for nursing school. I'm like, whichever one I hear from first is what I'll do. Because the truth was, my passion was dancing, a ballerina. I was a professional dancer till I was 26. And I thought I'd own my own ballet studio, even back then I was thinking entrepreneurially, I guess.
So
But
where does that come from, do you think? Like being an entrepreneur?
I don't know
Yeah.
because no one in my family's ever owned their own
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think it's just my personality. I'm very creative, but
Mm.
I'm also very driven and I'm confident of what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's what I don't know. But you know, I I take direction well, but I don't like someone stifling my passion, someone
Mm.
stifling my growth.
Mm.
So I guess it's from there because what I have found in my career is that there is an art and science, to anything that we do.
Yeah, sure.
And I have worked really hard in my studies, in my practice, in my continuing education, and in my branding, my self branding of who I am as a professional to allow somebody else to control what I can deliver and
Mm-hmm.
what I can't deliver and how
Mm-hmm.
to deliver it. Um, Especially when I have all the tools to do it myself.
Right.
So, it took me a little while to get there because, I oscillated a lot. I would get in my head. I'm like, oh no, but how do I do it? It's like, well, like anything else, you got to do, you got to research, but we get in our heads and we think we're reasoning, but it's really oscillating
Mm-hmm.
because there is no reason. Nothing that stands strong
Or
enough
we're
to
just
pull you
making it
one
up.
way.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where we're creating our story based on fears, disappointments, things that don't even exist
Yeah.
is what I found out.
Yeah. It's not
Um,
reality.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finally got real with myself, I was able to actually step off of my soapbox of the life that I had created based on things that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it was like, wow, my life is empty and meaningless, which was perfect because now I could fill it with my own why, my own meaning, and give it all new meaning.
Yeah.
And I had a choice. I can sulk and woe is me and I'm just going to work for somebody else because I'm just a nurse.
Right. And this is what
No,
I've done.
I'm a nurse. That is huge. That is great. That is amazing. And I am able to help others as well as myself and my family.
Yeah. I love that. So Artisan Face and Body, is this your first business or you started something before?
No, I actually started something before. Not counting the car wash business that I started when I was a kid.
Oh, there
I
you
would
go.
around the
So yes, you
neighborhood.
always had that entrepreneur
I
spirit.
did, and that's what I was saying when I started thinking, gosh, I'm letting my archives just
Yeah.
relax. And I was like, I've been doing this kind of stuff like all my life, but never, honed in on that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But other than that, my first business venture as a professional entrepreneur was with a company I started called ALNC, which was Arenas Legal Nurse Consulting.
Okay.
Yes. And in that capacity, I was an expert nurse witness. I reviewed cases for law firms, both plaintiff and defense,
Oh, wow.
set up timelines, basically just dissected, all of this information that they would gather from beginning to end and find out what was done, what wasn't done to standard of care during that time period, creating a timeline and putting it all together for the attorneys.
Okay.
And then also saying, look, we need to get someone in from cardiology to look at this because there's more to it. And it help also guide them with what other experts we might need. And for me, being a nurse practitioner, being able to assess, diagnose, interpret, and treat, which are the same things that your MDs and your DOs can do as well, and your PAs,
Mm-hmm.
and prescribe as well. So I was a real benefit to the law firms because they were getting a lot of bang for their buck, but
Yeah.
they also paid for their bang and buck.
Sure.
I didn't come cheap, but I was good at what I did. And actually that's how I met my husband. He deposed me for 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be an hour deposition, but it was 6.5 hours. And then I married him.
Crazy. How did you go down that path?
I had gotten out of the OR, and I was thinking that I wanted to take the path of administration in a hospital, becoming either a
Okay.
chief nursing officer or a CEO.
Okay.
Again, that entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
route that I wasn't looking at as entrepreneurial. I just kept looking at it as in
The
nursing,
next
medicine,
step, right?
healthcare.
Yeah. Okay.
And once I got in there, I was director of a neuroscience department, and I was in charge of developing, starting a neuroscience ICU, and then a step down unit for neuro ICU from surgery for spine and brain.
Mm.
Devising a stroke center, a stroke clinic, and protocols so that we can get certified by JACO. And these were all things that I did on top of seeing patients,
Wow.
and rounding for not only neurology, but neurosurgery. And so, although I loved it because I love the science, I just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I just knew that the red tape that happens in the hospital, the things that I had to bend to
Yeah.
do in order to get a little bit. Not that it was unethical, because I wouldn't put myself there, but boy, I tell you, it's like, all right, so, there's a nursing shortage. The patient to nursing ratio is crazy. Let's focus on that. Well, we can't focus on that because we've got the budget. We got to look at the budget first. I'm like,
Mm.
oh my goodness, yes, I know the
Yeah.
budget, but this is how we can help the budget if we did X, Y, and Z. It's like, and it works, but it's politics in there, just
Yeah.
like everything else. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're right, that would work, but we really need to take care of this situation for this individual first.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm not good at this. I'm not a good politician.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I care too much.
Yeah.
And so, or at least in a different way.
Sure.
So I decided,
Providing like the best care, right? Like this is whatever is
yes,
best is whatever's needed.
correct.
Yeah.
And so, my personal moral scale,
Mm.
ethical scale, professional scale was off balance.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there was anything per se wrong, because there's a big legal crew. I mean, I was on every chair. I was a chair to many different, boards, and then also involved with root cause analysis. So, I worked very closely with the legal team, and they started sending me cases to review.
Mm.
Well, now my name is on these cases as I was the nurse to review.
Mm.
Well, that's public record.
Yeah.
So now you've got the plaintiff side looking at this as well. So now I've got defense and plaintiff outside of the hospital that are looking at me and reaching out to me, and can you review these records? Do you
Okay.
have time in your
Okay.
schedule? That's how that started. And I ended up leaving the hospital thinking I was going to go back to the OR. In fact, I had interviewed with Tampa General Hospital, and I had been hired to do pain management
Okay.
in their trauma ICU. And then there was a hiring freeze. And so on the hospital side, so even though I was hired on by the anesthesia group, I was having to wait and wait and wait. And it was during that waiting, because I believe everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
that I was walking with my daughter, in a stroller. And I was thinking to myself, it's been a long haul, everything that I've been doing. And I feel a little tired. I feel like I could use a little bit of a lift, and I thought, gosh, I really don't want to go back to Orlando, because I actually had worked with some of the plastic surgeons in their office, learning how to do aesthetics,
Okay.
because in the OR, we talked about all these wonderful things. And I was so inquisitive, why this? Why not do it this way? What result would you get instead? And one of the plastic surgeons was like, I know that you have a real cushy job as a CRNA. He goes, but one day, he said, when this industry blows up, you're going to realize that if you start learning about this now, you have the perfect job to transition into when you get tired of passing gas.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and he said, you might not look at it that way. He goes, but come to the office. Let me show you some things. And I did.
Yeah.
So even then I started learning, but again, we get in our heads that we label ourselves. It's like, I'm a nurse anesthetist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm this, I'm that. And
Stay in your lane.
yeah. And so, I started learning to do this. I was fascinated with it. I loved it. But, there's that, "Oh, but I've got a really good job right now. I get paid really well. I've got a really good package, and do
Yeah.
I wanna take that risk, and
Right,
how do
right.
I do it? Who do I speak to?" Because it's really hard to get into this industry,
Yeah.
from aesthetic medicine. But I walked into a practice, and I started inquiring about, what they had, what they did, who would be, the provider that I would be seeing, what is their approach, what is their training, and the person I was speaking to was like, "Can you hold on one second?" I was like, "Sure." She comes back, she goes, "Bill would like to meet with you." And I was like, "Oh," so I'm thinking Bill's a provider,
Yeah.
And, no, it was the owner of the company of the practice, and I will go find this person, I'm, like, looking, and they're like, "Oh, hi," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, this place where I went to meet the person at was under construction still." So I'm walking in, I'm like, "Yeah, there must be something wrong here."
Yeah.
This is just like, still being built out, and
Yeah.
there's a man there, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm looking for so and so." It's like, "Yeah, that's me. Are you Donna?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, um, so he starts speaking to me a little bit and says, "My girl over at the other office, said that we need to hire you." And I was like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, I'm sorry. I go, "I think you're confusing me with someone because I came in inquiring about filler and your provider." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And I was like, "Are you the provider? Are you the one that's going to be doing this? And where?" I'm like, "Here." I'm like, I was like, "There's no way in heck."
Yeah.
And he's like, "First of all," he goes, "you do not want me giving you any filler and touching your face." He goes, "I don't know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
And he goes, "But," he goes, "you do. And I want you to work for us." And I was like,
Crazy.
"What?" It was the craziest thing. I went in to get treatment, and I walked out with a job.
So it's almost like your passion for science and learning and that sort of stuff kind of led you. One, it gave you so many different experiences throughout your career, and then led you to that point of getting that job, right?
Yeah, and so I did, and I had already had some training, and I'm very thankful for the experience, the opportunity I
Yeah.
had with that stepping stone. But then there came a point in time when, once again, it wasn't balancing with my scale, and so I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And from moving on, I had some people that I did not realize my name was out there for what I did.
Yeah.
But apparently, word of mouth, patient following and everything, I was getting some phone calls from some other offices of, "We hear that you're not at this particular practice anymore, and would you like to come on board?" And I was like, "How are these people getting my
Yeah.
number?" First of all,
Yeah.
So I'll never forget, there was one, I did speak to some of them, and there was one particular place that I went to, and I was like, I told my husband, I'm like, "I don't even know where this place is." I'm like, "Why would somebody be calling me from the Largo area?" And I'm like, "All the way in the Keys." He's like, "Not Key Largo, honey. There's a Largo here." Because I was new to Tampa as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I just felt so inept there." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well," I'm like, so, and that's how it just started. And then
Yeah.
once again, time reached where the scales were different, and I knew it was time to move. But, that brings me to a very important thing, is that, I wouldn't say that I've had failures per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all of my experiences, even though some of the experience turned out to be maybe a little bit like, "Wow, that's really not what I expected and where I expected to be," it's
Yeah.
not so much a failure, because I still walked away with growth and learning and another open door. So to me, that is a huge success, not a failure. Even it
Yeah.
depends on how you look at it, I
Well,
guess.
as I say, I think that's the important piece of, and that's kind of one of the reasons like why I asked that question in the beginning about like failures, right? Because I think that's an important aspect of it. It's like there are challenges, there's things we're going to fail at, but if you look at it the right way, like you just learn from your failures and move on. Like every successful business owner, every successful person that is, had a great career, whether it's like they're a business owner or just moved up the corporate ladder or done anything successful in their life, they've failed at something, and probably a lot of things, right? But they've just learned from them and become better because of those failures.
Yeah, I think that one big failure could be not trying. Or,
Oh, of
and
course.
I even
Yeah.
have to retract on that because my family's really big on movie quotes. We're big movie buffs. I mean,
Okay.
they are. I say I am because it makes me feel good to be part of the team. But, I watch a movie just for pure enjoyment. I don't
Yeah.
know the names of the actors. I forget the name of the characters even.
Yeah.
All I know is what was the message. That's what I'm there for, the
sure.
message,
For sure. Yeah.
But my family knows like lines and everything. But there is one line that I love from a movie, and that is Star Wars, and it is, Yoda, and it says, "Do or do not. There is no try."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at first I just thought that was cute, but when I really started thinking about it, I started realizing there is no try because we're either doing something or we're not doing something. If you're trying, you're doing it.
Yeah.
If you're not trying it, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's our biggest failure of anyone is if you have a passion, if you have something, is to not try.
And I think even like the mindset of like, I'm going to try this, like you're almost setting yourself up for failure right there because you're like, you're half in, you're not, doing it. You're not just committed to doing
commitment.
it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what that phrase or that quote is about. It's about commitment. It's about, sticking the path, getting it done. Okay, so I can't go this way. All right, doesn't mean give up. It just means how else can I get around or
Pivot.
over or under to get to the other side?
Yep.
And that for me is perseverance. And I think that that's one of my strengths is I don't give up easily.
Mm-hmm.
I might oscillate. I might oscillate. But I won't give up.
Yeah.
And when I oscillate, it's because I get in my own head, and then I create a scenario that doesn't honestly exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all do that.
Of course.
But when I realize, oh my goodness, I'm doing it. And, it's kind of like that internal little, let me coddle you, but a little slap here and there. And like, come on, get back in the game, and pick up your grit and let's keep going.
Yep. I love that. So let's talk about like what you do at Artisan Face and Body for anyone who's interested in aesthetic medicine. Just talk a little bit about that because that's something that's completely new to me. So I guess for anybody that doesn't know, what is it and what do you do?
Okay, so Artisan Face and Body. The reason why I say face and body is because when you think aesthetics, people right away are thinking, oh, the wrinkles on my forehead, the wrinkles around my eyes. I need, I would like my lips to look a little bit fuller. I need a little bit more angle on my jaw, or what can I do about my skin? How can I make it look better?
Mm-hmm.
So I work on the face, but I also work on the body aesthetically. But I'm just not aesthetics. I'm also wellness, because in order for everything on the outside to be optimum, it takes more than just my talents and my skill set.
Yeah.
You need to be optimum from the inside as well. And that's where my wellness portion comes into place, where Artisan Face and Body is wellness and aesthetic optimization for both men and women.
Okay.
I also work on the wellness side with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, peptides, medical weight loss, and optimization of certain organs. For instance, a thyroid. You can be having symptomology of a low functioning thyroid and go to the doctor and you give all these symptoms and it's definitely, you're like, wow, definitely it's going to be a thyroid thing. Or you go to another provider. So I don't want to single anybody out because I do respect all of the different specialties. But you go to a provider and they're like, we're just reading off of a lab value. And it's like, yeah, well, your labs came back normal. Mm-hmm. You must be tired. You're stressed. You're this, you're that. And maybe it's true. Maybe they are all that, but there's something else going on. And maybe that normal value is on the very low end of the normal value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my type of practice comes in. I optimize that because I have a very intense questionnaire. And then I also spend time, it's not a quick 10-minute visit with me.
Yeah.
I spend time with you. We talk about this. I find out about you. All of my patients, I know about them, their families. I've seen, kids grow. I've seen, families grow, marriages, new babies. Oh, my grandbaby, look at my grandbaby.
Mm-hmm.
People will reach out to me just to say, hey, look what's happened. I mean, I've been invited to weddings. I've been invited to, And honestly, there in medicine and in other practices too, many times people really divide personal life from the practice life,
Yeah.
which is important. But because I build such a relationship with my patients, um, it folds over sometimes.
Yeah.
And I do want to be there to help support them in joyous occasions. And sometimes it's been not so joyous.
Sure.
But because I've helped them get to where they are through optimization and by feeling good about themselves. I mean, it's crazy, but think about it. Let's say they don't come in for wellness, any kind of wellness balancing, but they come in for something else. Like, I feel like everyone keeps telling me, why am I always angry? And I'm not angry. And I actually feel good. But when they tell me that, then it makes me angry.
Yeah.
I know what they're talking about. There's certain things on a face, features like, stress points in between the eyebrows, or maybe worry lines across the forehead,
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a muscle that's down in the lower jaw that pulls down extra tight, that pulls the corners of the mouth down. So they're constantly looking bitter.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the resting Grinch face.
Yeah.
I know that the holidays
version.
have passed, but I don't want to be, too horrible on that.
Yeah.
And they want to feel better because of the way they are presenting. You can be happy on the inside, but something's not balanced on the outside. They need to feel better. And so aesthetics does affect your mental health.
Yeah.
And I incorporate mind, body, spirit, because when you walk into Artist and Face and Body, you can see my spirituality in there as well. I'm not talking about pushing religion or anything, but just my peace. I want to, have peace. Everything is about peace. How can we make us better? And so I incorporate all of that. And I don't know. I guess I might have been like a reincarnated Buddha or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's still so much for me to learn, but I mean, it isn't a bad thought to have that. I'm like, we can get through this. There's always a better something coming out of what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just having that mindset and just like understanding that there is possibility, there is something that can change.
Yeah.
How long have you had? Have you been in business?
Wow. Well, I've been a nurse or a nurse practitioner for over 25 years.
How long are Artist and Face and Body? How long has that been around?
Artist and Face and Body has been around going on 5 years. It's like 4.5 years. So since about 2018, definitely. I was thinking about Artist and Face and Body, believe it or not. And here I go back to, again, my archives. I'm like, gosh, I've been thinking about this for so long. Because even when I first started really diving into aesthetics, and not only was I hired, but I mean, like really diving into training, getting, top-notch training by some of the great pioneers in the aesthetic field.
Mm-hmm.
I have a notebook that I was doodling names. I guess subconsciously already knew that I would one day be doing something. And I had spoken to some people along my path that I had joined venture with, as a provider, saying, I'd love to do this, and maybe we can do this together. And, that was more of my naive self, saying we can do this together, because what I found was that once I brought my talents, my skill set, and everything to the practice, it became agreed thing. It's like, oh wow, yeah, no, we'll just keep you as an employee, and do this, and I'm like, and I get it. I'm like, okay, but then this isn't where I need to be.
Right. This isn't what I want to do.
Right. And so I finally had ventured out because I love teaching, whether it be the community, patients, or other providers, about what I learn. I feel that if I can give it out there, I'm always going to keep getting it back.
For sure.
And I do believe that wholeheartedly. I'm also a national trainer for the American Institute of Aesthetic Medicine. And when I go to give a training, I pour every ounce, every fiber of my heart and soul and knowledge that I possibly can, based on the skill set that I'm working with. I try and bring each provider to the very next level.
Yeah.
With anything that I have, because I've been very fortunate to work with some really incredible pioneers in this industry, and they keep giving to me.
Yeah.
I actually teach with some of them now. And, they'll be contacting me. Hey, listen, I tried this and this. Have you tried this? Have you done something like this? And I'm like, hey, man, I'm not exactly that, but this is how I'm doing it. And they're like, hey, let me know how that's working for you. I'll let you know how this is working.
Yeah.
And we just keep that network going, and it's so fruitful. I think that it would be a shame for me to hold it all in and take it to the grave.
Yeah.
I want others to learn and to do really well, because that keeps giving strength to the industry. Because there are a lot of people out there, they're overnight sensations. They take a 4-hour course and, oh yeah, I can do this, XYZ. They have no idea, because it's really dangerous. There's a lot that goes into what we do. And I don't think that the community is aware of that completely,
Sure.
A lot of crazy things can happen. A lot of damaging things can happen.
Which is scary. And I like the idea that you just brought up of like cooperation, like within the industry, right? I think a lot of industries can benefit from that, right? Like having that cooperation. Like you're not necessarily competing. Maybe you're in different areas or different states or whatever, but sharing ideas and like you said, it just makes your profession better as a whole, and moves it forward for the next generation.
Absolutely, it does. But I'll be honest with you, and I'm sure this happens in every industry, because at least every industry that I've been involved with, I have recognized to some extent this happens. But people fear competition, because they look at competition in a negative way. They feel like if someone's done something better than me, then I'm no good.
Right.
Whereas I look at it as in, those results are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know how to get those results, but more so, I want to know if we can even get better results.
Right.
And maybe that's the scientist in me.
Yeah.
So I don't
always learning.
I don't look at it, as in it's a competition thing and I have to keep my secret. Now, granted, I'm going to be very honest. There are things that I do that I have formulated, certain techniques that I have formulated that I know work. It's a culmination of all the years, all my science, all my education, all of like things that I learned from anesthesiology that I bring into the aesthetic field, from like taking things to a cellular level to, the weights of a molecule and how it's, reconstituted with a solution, and what other product can I mix this with so that they can both enhance each other's result, so that then I in turn can use it on a patient and really, really blast the results out, of the sky, which is called combination therapy. I mean, I was actually spoken about in a negative way in my earlier days, because I was already practicing with combination therapy. It wasn't out there. It was just get one filler, do it this way. And I started thinking, what if we mix this and this? And what if we stack it this way? And what if we actually treat aesthetics not just as a frou-frou thing, but as a medicine? Because in Europe they do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so that's when I thought, I have to start doing my training overseas for the more advanced training, which is what I do.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes. I actually kind of took advantage of being out in Europe this past summer. And I, went to the Netherlands and I trained out there, and in the UK. And then I was in France, but that was just pure pleasure. It was totally hedonistic, totally.
Yeah.
But my daughter had graduated from Cambridge, my older daughter, and she was getting ready to come back over to do her PhD at Harvard. And so I told her, let's go ahead and celebrate your graduation, because we were supposed to do it when she graduated Wellesley College, but she graduated in our living room because we had the pandemic and the lockdown.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I was like, we're going to definitely make the most of this one.
For sure.
Yes, and so that's what I look at, constantly with colleagues, looking, what are we doing? What's working? I don't look at it as a competition. The competition that I look at is with myself.
Yeah.
How can I be better for the people that I'm serving?
Right.
That's my competition.
Yeah. Which is such a great mindset for anybody. So where can people, a couple questions I want to ask you before we wrap up. One, where you located? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, Donnie, I have to be honest with you. I am so thrilled because I am located in the heart of Dunedin.
Nice.
I have always dreamed about being in Dunedin, and I have worked my way around to finally be in Dunedin.
Cool.
It reminds me of a place that I, grew up in as a kid in Miami. Well, part of Miami. It's in South Miami. It's called Coconut Grove, and there's
Oh,
so
okay.
much it reminds me of, and it's artsy, and it's just always with a great vibe, and that's Dunedin for
Yeah.
me. So I am located at 2101 Moultries Crossing, located inside the Image Studios of Dunedin, and my suite is 121 and growing. I have 2 going on 3 suites now.
There you go. Nice. Yeah.
So it's a wonderful facility, plenty of parking, and it's a great way for me to build my practice in a solid way without having to worry too much about you know, feeding a beast that isn't full yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect because this allows me the opportunity to really, really focus on my patients and to give them what they need without having to shuffle them around and hurry up in and out 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Right.
I
Just so you can make sure you
really
can pay
give
the
the time.
bills. Yeah. I like that. So the last thing I want to finish up with is what is, when you're not working, when you're not learning, what is one thing that you like to do for yourself? Like one place you like to visit. So it could be the beach, it could be a restaurant. Like, where are you going if you have a free minute for yourself?
I love music.
Mm.
I love all kinds of music. I was a professional dancer until I was 26 and worked with different, companies. And I just really, really have such an appreciation for the arts. So anything that's with the arts, I'm totally, totally game for.
Yeah.
But something that heals me from the inside out is the ocean.
Mm.
And I have to be careful because, I'm in an industry where I have to model what, I teach
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what I present to my patients, but I am safe. I have my sun protectant. I have my hat. I have on my SPF, tops and everything. And, but I love the ocean. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I love being out in the water. I would much rather be in the water with sharks than in the fresh water with the alligators.
Yeah.
I will not touch fresh water unless you put me out in Oregon or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, man.
No alligators.
No,
Yeah.
no way. No, I'm happy. And honestly, I love being out in the water.
Yeah.
Scuba's great. All of that, snorkeling, it's all good.
Yeah. And we have such great waters right around here, and it's like, paradise. It really is.
It is.
So.
It is.
Well, Donna, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate you coming on here to share your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a true pleasure to be on here. And for those listening, come and stop by Artisan Face and Body, located in the heart of Dunedin in the Image Studios of Dunedin.